I'm Derek Fildebrandt, publisher of the Western Standard. Today is January 26, 2022, and you're watching The Pipeline. Today I am joined as usual by Western Standard assistant, opinion and broadcast editor, and host of Triggered, Cory Morgan. How you doing, Cory?
Very good, thanks. It's a long one to get on a business card, isn't it?
It is. It is. I don't know. We'll have to come up with like a really cool title for you.
Yeah, or some sort of weird abbreviation.
Just an opinionated guy.
Yeah.
Angry guy.
Angry
guy is just your
picture of me on the card will take care of that.
There we go. We've also got a special treat. Western Standard's news editor Dave Naylor is not with us today. But in his place, we've got the lovely Eva Sudyk.
Yes.
Sudyk. It's a hard I know how to say it, but I always looking at how it's spelled, and it's just crazy. It's not actually long and crazy. It's just Ukrainian.
Yeah, it's pretty short. Only 8 letters, my full name.
Yeah, but your last name has got a W, a Y, a U.
Thanks for having me today.
Okay. Well, today we're going to be discussing the trucker convoy closing in on Ottawa. We'll be giving you an update on where that's at. But we're also going to talk about the mainstream media coverage of it. If you're watching Global, you're watching CTV. You could be forgiven if you believe this had nothing to do with freedom and ending lockdowns and vaccine mandates. This is actually about white power. This is a white power convoy full of Sikhs from the Punjab province.
Yes, they've been noteworthy for their white supremacy, actually.
Sikhs, big white supremacists.
Yes.
Yeah, you got to watch them. So we're gonna be getting into that. Just absolutely some outrageous coverage that's not just tilted, outright lies and slander. And of now federal conservative leader Erin O'Toole, his leadership back under fire, constituency associations gunning for a vote on his leadership, and one of his Alberta MPs, Arnold Viersen, breaking ranks with Erin O'Toole in supporting the leader's cockamamie carbon tax plan. So not all well in Erin O'Toole land. Before we get going, though, I want to thank all of our Western Standard members for your continued support. Without you, we couldn't continue to provide you with independent, Western, bailout-free media. You can become a Western Standard member and get unlimited access for just $10 a month or $99 a year. You can try it free for 15 days. In 15 days, you can cancel if you don't like it. I think we've got 95% plus. Keep with it. As Cory mentioned on his show earlier today. Check it out right now. Go to westernstandardonline.com, click on membership, try it free for 15 days. I guarantee it. It'll be the best money you spent today. And before we get started, though, we're going to have a quick message from one of our sponsors, Algodex. Algodex is owned by Algonaut. This is great new technology just coming online now in the digital currency world. Algodex is a great way for you to use the digital currency Algorand in your day-to-day transactions. Can you imagine a world where we don't have to buy a cup of coffee using the federal dollar, and you don't even have to use the American federal dollar? You don't have to use the euro or the pound sterling. You can use real money, digital currencies that are not at the beck and call of governments and inflation. The Algodex is making digital currencies usable in a day-to-day basis. All right, well, the big trucker convoy moving from west to east. I passed through where we're at in Calgary just a few days ago, yesterday in Winnipeg. Eva, tell us where are they at now and what's going on with the convoy?
I know that they have gone into Northern Ontario. I'm not sure they're their exact whereabouts, but they passed through Winnipeg. They weren't even able to stop in Winnipeg because there were so many people and they were going on different routes. They kind of got lost, but there were huge gatherings along all of the highways in Manitoba greeting them.
Okay, and do we know when they're expected to arrive in Ottawa?
On Sunday. It has slowed down due to the icy highways, so they're being very cautious, but they are expected on Sunday in Ottawa, and the big protest is on Monday.
So I know anyone who's ever driven that route through Northern Ontario, like the true Trans-Canada Highway route, knows that that's not the route the truckers actually take. Most of them actually all go through the States. A relatively small number actually take the Trans-Canada over the Lakehead through Northern Ontario. For most of it, it's one lane on each side. It's not It's not meant as a major transportation corridor. We only have a road there, so we could say that there is a single road across Canada that you can drive, and that is technically true. So, the truckers who are normally used to going through the States and back into Canada, which is now illegal for them to do, which is one reason that's triggering all of this. Triggered.
Take those plugs where I can.
Yeah. They're now going through the north on roads that are really just not meant for this kind of traffic. It's even gums up huge roads that are meant for this, for heavy traffic, because this is just so unprecedented. What do we expect to happen at the protest on Monday?
On Monday is actually day one. It's a big one, but then there's 5 days of speeches from multiple different people, supporters.
Sorry, 5 days?
Yep, 5 days of speeches.
It's like Trucker Woodstock.
At least until Parliament can give them some kind of answer.
By the end of it too, there's not a lot of showers on Parliament Hill outside. I don't think.
Ottawa's dirty enough. So tell us about what's expected to happen in Ottawa.
There are going to be lots of representatives, MPs, Conservatives, independent parties. There's going to be a lot of police force that are in support of them. Lots of independent people from Canada Unity are going to be speaking. Just all kinds of protesters and people who are in support of the cause.
Okay. Cory, I know you got into it a bit on your show today. We're going to get to the mainstream media coverage of this soon. Actually, do we have any idea yet of what's a reasonable estimate of how many people and how many trucks are there? Because there's wildly different accounts. Now, most people involved in a protest inflate their numbers. So, I mean, I'm cautious about that. I mean, not saying they're doing it intentionally, but, everyone thinks that they're bigger and better than they are. But then some mainstream media are saying that, there's a couple hundred trucks. It's just a couple of nutters. Do we have any reasonable estimates to go with right now?
Well, Canada Unity Convoy came out yesterday that there are officially 50,000 trucks.
50,000 trucks.
Trucks alone.
Okay. I have a hard time believing that because, self-reported numbers are normally inflated. But if so, then this is the biggest convoy since D-Day.
If it's even 1,000, it's
1,000's huge.
I think somebody was saying the world record is going to be broken for convoys, and that number was 750. And it's really sounded like that's going to be
750 trucks was the biggest convoy.
It was. And that's a lot of trucks when you think about that.
That
is a lot, together in one movement. That was a Turkish thing or something. I can't remember where the prior record was from.
It seems very likely that will be smashed.
It should.
But 50,000, I'm highly doubtful. I mean, that's higher than the number of estimated truck drivers who were even impacted by the ban on them working. So we'll see.
Well, them coming through Calgary from Vancouver was 50 kilometers long. So I'm not sure how many cars that is, but it was quite long already at the Calgary.
Well, and some of them are just the tractor, and some were tractor trailer, and some were not actually tractor trailers at all. They're just vehicles joining the convoy.
Yeah, lots of vehicles.
So it's a mix. I mean, so one tractor trailer will obviously take up a lot more space than one guy in his pickup.
But that's something else with this. I mean, this has turned into something so much more than just the truckers' convoy. I bet there will be as many or maybe more private vehicles that are just joining on because they want to take part in this rally. This is gone beyond.
When right wingers get angry and protest, it's so much cooler. Because so if you got some PETA guys, they're pouring blood on themselves and shit and demanding free quinoa. That's kind of boring. They're holding some signs. When these guys go, they got big rigs and there's barbecues and beer.
Just imagine if they all set off those air horns at the same time in Ottawa. That'll shake some windows.
Break the glass.
Might even wake up a couple senators.
Yeah,
that's a long shot.
Well, I remember when I was in politics, and there was I think it was Bill 6. It was the NDP farm bill that farmers and ranchers were pretty damned upset about. There was big protests in front of the legislature, and everybody showed up bringing farm animals. So there was one guy there. I have a picture of it somewhere, and it was a turkey. It was a big fat turkey, and the turkey had a little sign around his neck that said, "I support Bill 6."
You might have been a captive member, but we'll take his endorsement.
Yeah. So anyway, these things tend to be a lot more interesting. Okay, well, we're going to be covering it very closely. We're going to try and get Eva to Parliament Hill for it. We're still working out the logistics on that. But yeah, we're going to make sure if Eva's not there, we're going to have coverage live on Parliament Hill one way or another. Let's talk what I I really want to talk about on this. It's not the convoy itself. It's the mainstream government-funded coverage of the convoy. Cory, you had a rant on this today, and you've written a column.
Oh,
Just before you get into your second rant on this, just paint the picture about how this is being reported in the mainstream media.
Certainly, like we talked earlier, one of the big, I guess, half-truths at best that was put out was the myth that the fundraising site for this was frozen. They've been putting it out, multiple media sources, throwing it out there saying there's problems with the fundraising, the site is frozen. And as Eva followed up directly with the organizer, Tamara Litch, and I talked with Tamara, at least through texts and so on, no, it's not frozen. What they've done is taken a portion out of the terms and conditions of fundraiser where you're supposed to provide them, though, with just letting them know where you're going to disperse it and how, what the plans are. When we're talking now $5.3 million, they're being thorough with it. Mm-hmm. But there was no problems. In fact, Tamara told us that they were the 8th highest or fastest fundraising effort they'd ever had on that site. Like, this is massive. So yes, they're not just going to give them a few suitcases of money and let them walk down the street. There's some, but there was not frozen. Like the way they were framing
the media said this is frozen.
This is frozen.
Like their assets are frozen because they've done something bad.
Like that something got wrong. And absolutely nothing is wrong. Nothing is frozen. There's just processes to go through. They haven't walked it back because at best it is a half truth. I mean, she can't walk up and draw from it yet, but it's going to be coming out. And it's still taking in funds. If this was a problem, GoFundMe is going to cover their butt. They're going to say, whoa, we're shutting her down. We're not taking anybody else's money until we sort this out. No, they've been fundraising all the way through. And the media has just gleefully been reporting it. And again, it comes to why? I mean, this is not news. Why? It's not real news. What's your agenda? It discredits themselves.
So they're completely wrong. It's not frozen whatsoever. Yeah. Anyone, you can go on and donate right now.
You can, and they are.
Yeah.
Where are they?
But media can make errors. When you make an error, you fess up to it. You sometimes apologize. You always correct. Has there been any corrections or apologies that we know of?
No.
I haven't seen one yet. Because again, I think at best they're playing the semantics that, well, it's not openly released, but I mean, it's sad and it's failing. I think personally, again, if somebody has an agenda, the goal was to make it sound like this isn't credible, don't give money to it. And they started that myth back when it was $3 million. Well, now it's $5.3 million. So it's failed. It didn't work. Yeah. That gets on to where the media went next.
So it's not just on the GoFundMe page and fundraising around this. It's on what the convoy is itself. Tell us why this convoy against mandatory vaccinations and lockdowns is actually all about white supremacy.
Yeah, that was brutal. And it was there was a number. I mean, we've seen it, some individual tweeters or people like Gerald Butts. You expect that from that hammerhead. But Global put out, I mean, they were the worst of the bunch, a hit piece.
It was even worse than the CBC's.
Oh, it was terrible. Yeah. And you looked at it, and it was basically framing it as if extremists and white supremacists were rubbing their hands together and wanted to turn this into the next January 6th riots, as happened in the States. And what they had done, I mean, Weak News is clipping out pieces from Facebook posts and things. They didn't even put the names with the Facebook posts they had clipped out. And it wasn't even from the main site. They said it's some group of 35,000. The Facebook one, by the way, has over 600,000 people. So some side group had some guy saying some extreme things like, "Oh, we want to, we want to take it over as a coup."
And as crazy as that was, it still wasn't mentioning any white power stuff. It was just kooky, crazy talk. But it wasn't even about that.
There was none of that. They got a quote from some guy who's made a career out of anti-hate tracking or something. He's one of those ones who sees a white supremacist.
But they actually didn't even name the hateful people making comments here. It's just some guy on Facebook said.
Just absurdity. And
surely there are no fake social media accounts out there.
Oh, and then they took some quotes from some other side. I don't even remember the name of it, a different communication social media thing. There was nothing. It was a nothing burger. You could have written it up. There's no way to source it even actually to prove that these were even said on Facebook. And they made a whole piece out of it to make this sound like this whole collection was a potentially violent group of extremists, white supremacists, radicals. And again, why? Why did you do this, you guys? What is your role as a media outlet? I mean, I understand a bit of slant or picking certain stories, but this was a hit piece and it was terribly done. And it failed. Again, it failed. That's the thing. This is picking up steam. If anything, I think it's galvanizing people. People are seeing through that crap now.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's great for us at the Standard. You know what? Keep reporting your crap, guys, because we get more subscribers every time when they look at the mainstream media, the legacy media, and realize just how sick that institution has gotten.
It's especially sad because the Freedom Convoy came out with their statements to the press yesterday, and it's all about dismantling the hate and hate speech and censorship. That's half of what the convoy is about.
Well, Eva, you've been talking to the organizers. You've been pretty deep into this. This has kind of become your beat since it started here. In your conversations, have any of them ever gotten into how this is actually a secret plan for Aryan nations or something?
Absolutely not. No. It's all about having our freedoms and our constitutional rights back.
Yeah.
That sounds extreme.
Now, one thing I did, I haven't checked this out. I have to admit, I'm relying on mainstream media reports here, but I think it was Gurney. He's a guy with the National Post. He was saying on Twitter that the group has issued some sort of list of demands and some sort of pseudo legalese. And from what he described, it sounded pretty wacky. Like they're expecting the Governor General and the Senate to like take some interim government and start issuing orders. Did you see any of that stuff?
Well, they do have a list of demands. It's a protest.
Yeah, but is it involving the Senate and the Governor General?
Yes, for them to sign off on just getting rid of the mandates.
So they don't know that neither have any power whatsoever in any of this. Like, at all. They have as much power as the Brooks Town Council. Like, the Governor General and the Senate have zero to do with any of it.
I think it's on the influence of what they have.
They have no influence.
But it's and that's happening.
They have as much influence on this as the Brooks Town
There's
Council.
some naivety coming out of the group, and that's what I guess I can put. The group's grown far beyond that, and that they've got this a poor interpretation of what they think can happen. But they're making their goal anyways, in that they're going to clog up Ottawa like nobody's ever seen. We're seeing a demonstration like we've never seen in our lifetimes. I mean, this is singular. This is unusual.
I think the goals of what they're trying to achieve, they're bang on. But I think they're lacking, like in their formal demands, they're lacking someone in the room with an understanding of constitutional law and how the government works. Like,
this is truly grassroots, and that's what's great about it. There's no central leadership. So there is, I think, one of the leading groups within the groups is got that.
Yeah.
But again, it's just naive. It's not dangerous or extreme.
Well, it's not dangerous unless they somehow think that the Governor General and the Senate can do something and they try to force it to do so. I mean,
that was on their memorandum of understanding that they were asking for the Governor General signature, but not on their list of demands.
Yeah, so I don't, if the Governor General signed a political document, the Governor General would be fired by the Queen. Like, it would be, clearly, actually, it would be unconstitutional for the Governor General to do so.
But, I mean, to be fair, Chief Teresa Spence, when she had her fake hunger strike in Ottawa, was demanding an audience directly with the Queen and felt that she could override treaties.
Yeah, and the media gave her a pass.
Basically didn't touch her on that one either. So,
the hunger strike where she got fatter.
Yes, it was amazing.
That was great.
That was the most fattening water I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Yes, Chief Chins.
Okay. Well, add one to Cory's column. I think some of the way they're formulating their demands with the Governor General and the Senate is batshit crazy. Like, there's no understanding of it there. And they shouldn't be given a pass for that, I think, because that is not understanding how things can happen. But, I mean, the media gave absolute passes to, like the Wet'suwet'en chiefs. They demand to speak with, and they're not actually chiefs. They're just hereditary guys who claim to be chiefs. They have no legitimacy, and they claim to want to speak to the sovereign of Canada, which would be the Queen of England.
Yeah. And these things do add no legitimate concerns. Like, I'm loving how this is just so organic. And I mean, we got groups of truckers. That's how it's so hard to get a count, because we see videos of some leaving Newfoundland and some in North Carolina and some from different parts of Ontario, and some are catching up with the convoy. But it's not tightly organized, and that leaves me thrilled because it's an organic movement that's building up, but also nervous because things can go off the rails. If things start to get stupid in Ottawa, who gets the bullhorn and takes charge?
Well, that's the thing. If when you have a decentralized movement like this, it's more genuine. It's grassroots. It's bottom up. But it's then real easy for one guy, one jackass, to hold up some stupid sign and make everyone else look bad. That's the downside of it.
It's difficult. So, I mean, again, I don't know. I mean, as a person who loves a bit of anarchy, I'm just still watching this whole thing thrilled, to see what's going to happen. I don't want to see people harmed. I don't want to see Parliament torn down. But we're going to see an event like we've never seen before. And I'm hoping it's a good expression of discontent peacefully. I mean, it can be loudly, and I'm sure to a degree tastelessly, and that's okay. I thrive on tastelessness.
Yeah, surely
But-
you've never been tasteless. Cory.
Yes, but they're making a point, and it's got the establishment nervous, the establishment media, the establishment politicians. This movement has them scared. We're not talking physical fear of them coming in and dragging them out or anything. Fear of their perch being challenged, and I like it.
Yeah. Well, surround Parliament Hill and make them squeal. Figuratively.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we're going to just quickly discuss another one of our great sponsors today, the Canadian Shooting Sports Association. Canadian, I can't get enough of these guys. They're a great organization fighting for your right to own, use, and purchase firearms safely and legally in Canada. Check out their website, cssa-cila.org, not Cialis. It's cssa-cila.org. Or you can Google them. I think that's actually the easiest way to get to them. This is a great organization fighting for your right, your firearms rights. They lobby the politicians, making sure they're doing their best, at least, to make sure that they understand reasonable and sensible, safe firearms policy. But when the politicians don't listen, which is frankly most of the time, pretty much all the liberals and dippers, and sometimes even some of the conservatives, they turn to advocacy and they get in the business of changing hearts and minds. Because what are the politicians going to do? They're going to follow where the voters are at. And I think far too many Canadians right now really, because the majority of Canadians don't own firearms. My goal is to make sure that those who don't do legally. So.
Yes.
But most Canadians don't own firearms, and they're there trying to help educate the non-firearms owners on what is reasonable gun legislation. And hopefully the politicians follow. You should absolutely be a member of this great organization. Check them out, cssa/cila.org, and click on Why Join to learn about why you should be a member of the Canadian Shooting Sports Association. Speaking of a guy taking some shots right now, Aaron O'Toole's leadership is under fire again. Constituency Association in Alberta Foothills, just south of where we're at right now, actually, demanding a vote on Aaron O'Toole's leadership, a leadership review, have that promptly so that it's not right before the next election. Conservatives can't realistically vote out the leader if it looks like they're going to an election in a month after that. But also, one of his MPs speaking out today on against one of Aaron O'Toole's marquee policies. Tell us about it, Eva.
So Arnold Viersen says that he opposes any carbon tax, whether it's the Liberals or the Conservatives making it. So he's saying any expense that makes life more expensive for Albertans, he's against.
So did he specifically take aim at O'Toole's carbon tax?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm glad he's doing this. It would have been nice if he did it before the election, when Canadians literally had no, out of the big mainstream parties, there was literally no party on the ballot that opposed the carbon tax. Canadians just had an option choices between the big liberal carbon tax, the bigger Green and NDP carbon tax, and the bizarre, twisted, sick freak of a carbon tax proposed by Aaron O'Toole, which was somehow even worse than Justin Trudeau's. And that takes a lot of effort to design a worse carbon tax than Justin Trudeau. You got to try hard to do that. Cory, do you think Arnold Viersen speaking out here is going to move the needle at all in the party?
Perhaps. I mean, when we start to see independent members of Parliament losing the fear, of speaking out against the leader, they realize he's too weak to keep kicking people out of caucus. He can't do that. So it also tells me he's fearing for his job, or he's gunning for a job. I mean, it's a crack in the caucus. It's a dangerous trend that's starting. When they're starting to come out, we're seeing a bit of that too with MPs who are supporting the truckers' convoy. Whereas O'Toole hasn't come out against it. He's just been mushy nothing on it. But I'm sure
that's a default O'Toole position.
Yeah, so I'm sure he'd rather the MPs all just shut up on it as well. But a number of them are saying, no, we're going to talk about this. And we are supportive and we're not going to apologize.
I have noticed that. So there's been some MPs, especially around Alberta, but across the country as well, who have been quite explicit in their support of the convoy. And I'd read that potentially as it's a kind of an indirect challenge, like Arnold Viersen on the carbon tax. It's an indirect challenge to the authority of the leader, kind of poking him in the eye, saying, What are you going to do about it? Carbon tax. What are you going to do about it? Convoy. Because it makes the leader look weak. He's not condemning the MP for doing anything, but he's not also supporting the convoy. He's not also in support of getting rid of his own carbon tax policy. I think these are just kind of the shots across the bow, but I think it's still very far away from anything like Jason Kenney's facing, where he's got very significant numbers of his own caucus saying this guy needs to resign immediately.
No, but Kenney got to this point after started kind of with some individual caucus members starting to speak up. Like that's the beginning of the leak from the dam, I guess you could say. And at first the dissent, from being in a caucus, will tend to usually be behind closed doors. You're going to try and rectify your issues within the caucus or with the leader directly if you can, before you start making a ruckus outside.
By the time anything gets outside the caucus, I mean, every once in a while you'll have a rogue individual who just isn't a team player. That will happen. But that doesn't look to be the case here. I mean, like the Conservative caucus as it is pretty tight-lipped on most things. So when they start taking these shots.
When you see a couple coming out like that, inside it's a lot uglier.
What I'll be watching for, though, is someone like Poliver going to start taking shots, like someone with some name recognition.
Well, Pierre's been very vocal on the truckers rally, and as did Andrew Scheer.
Mm-hmm.
So Scheer put out one just completely in support of the rally altogether. And at least Pierre Poilievre didn't say anything quite about the rally, but he retweeted it and said, I absolutely agree, which is the same thing. So it's
yeah, and I know like the Scheer guys, they're not too big of fans of O'Toole, even though they kind of won doing the same thing, not really saying anything and kind of getting default votes by not taking a position.
They lost doing the same thing. That's part of this weak leadership we're getting from the Conservatives. Scheer was pushed around by the dairy cartels and found himself to be weak, and then O'Toole's finding himself to be weak. I mean, if you're going to keep replicating Liberal leaders, they're just going to vote for Trudeau.
Yeah.
So.
Well, good to see Andrew Scheer has returned to being a Conservative.
Yes, he found himself.
Well, although I'm sure he still worships the dairy gods.
I'll spare you the name I used to call him.
You'll tell me when we're off the air. Well, that's it for today. We're going to wrap up. Again, thank you to all of our Western Standard members for your support. We cannot do the work we do without you. If you're not yet a member of the Western Standard, go to westernstandardonline.com right now. Try free for 15 days. You can cancel at any time. It's only $10 a month or $99 a year, and you're going to get unlimited access to the Western Standard's independent, Western, bailout-free media. We don't take a penny from the government. We don't take a penny of the Trudeau media bailout bribe. That's why you're getting independent content from us and not repeating what the government paymasters tell the mainstream government-funded media to do in Ottawa. Cory, Eva, wonderful debut. Thank you for joining us. And thank all of you for joining us today. God bless.